What is your favorite argument for God's existence and why?
So my favorite argument for God's existence is that I believe in free will. Okay, the reason that I think this is an argument for God's existence is because if you believe that human beings are essentially just balls of meat wandering around aimlessly in the universe, the kind of Spinoza's stone that thinks that it was moving of its own accord but actually was thrown, if you believe that and you don't believe in free will, then there's an internal coherence and logic to it. If you believe that you have the ability to make independent choices, that you can actually supersede your own biological drives and the environment around you to any extent, even to the smallest extent.
Okay. He says, so if you believe that you can exceed your own biological drives and the environment around you. First of all, what does that mean? You can exceed your biological drives. I mean, you are what is in your brain. That is biology. Psychology too, but psychology is biology. We've never found anything else in there other than a brain. So what does it mean for your biology to exceed your biology? It's basically meaningless.
This means that you believe in something that can't actually be proved by science, but that you are living every single day.
Then you believe something that can't be proved by science, but that you are living every single day. What exactly cannot be proved by science? That you are something other than your brain? I mean, none of us have the perception of being a brain, but yet, as far as we've ever been able to tell, that's just what we are. There's probably always going to be a disconnect between subjective experience and reductive scientific description. Science can explain why certain motions make you dizzy, but cannot explain why dizziness has a certain subjective feeling to you. Why dizziness feels this way and not some other way. Science has a good understanding of how pain receptors work, but can't explain why pain subjectively feels this way and not some other way. And similarly, if science can't explain why making choices feels a certain subjective way, that doesn't mean that science can't explain how decision-making works. So, whatever. You can believe lots of things that are not proved by science. You can believe your feelings of dizziness or pain or free will can't be explained by science. For that matter, you can believe that Ben Shapiro is an alien from the Andromeda galaxy masquerading as a human. But what is the point here? How does any of this prove that God exists?
And the notion that you have that will, and not only that you have that will, but that will is capable of comprehending the universe around you.
That will is capable of comprehending the universe around you. Well, that's not what people usually mean by free will. Free will or volition is the ability to make unconstrained choices. Comprehending the universe would typically fall under perception or cognition, and there's no guarantee that we can ultimately do that. There probably are boundaries to human cognition. But whether you're talking about volition or cognition, how does this conversation get us to God?
That your will is sort of, your ideas, your ability to comprehend the universe is a reflection of a reality, of an objective truth that is out there.
An objective truth that is out there. Well, that's an assumption that realists make, that our models do approximate something out there, independent of ourselves, and that's why our experiments based on those models are repeatable. Okay.
That says to me that there is a God, there's a common source that stands behind that objective truth and stands behind the mind that can comprehend that truth.
So wait a minute, what happened to free will? Was that a red herring?
So my favorite argument for God's existence is that I believe in free will.
Okay, so it seems like we dropped free will and went for cognition instead. And Ben then presents us with two premises. There is an objective reality, and we can comprehend that reality. Neither of these things is provable, and they're actually both fairly dubious, although they remain useful assumptions for working scientists. So let's just grant those premises. How do those premises in any way suggest the existence of God? What does it mean to have a source behind objective reality?
A common source that stands behind that objective truth.
Does that mean something that arbitrarily defines reality to be a certain way? And if that's the case, then why would that reality be considered objective, as in premise 1? And what does it mean to have a source that stands behind mind?
The common source that stands behind that objective truth and stands behind the mind that can comprehend that truth.
Does that mean that your mind has been arbitrarily designed to work in a certain way? And if that's the case, then why would you assume that design can comprehend reality, as in premise 2? I tend to think that far from supporting those two premises, the traditional monotheistic view of God actually destroys them. There is no objective reality because the whim of God determines all that we can perceive, the only actual reality being God. And we cannot comprehend that reality because God is unknowable according to most religious opinions. So on the theistic view that there is a God, there is never any hope of discovering objective reality. So if Ben Shapiro is of the opinion that there is an objective reality and that objective reality is cognizable, I don't see that as being compatible with theism at all. The only way you can harbor such a hope of understanding objective reality is on the view that we have evolved in such a way that our mental models of the world do bear a correspondence to the contours of at least local physical reality. Organisms that do not have adequate correspondences do not survive. And yes, what that means is that our mental models are adequate, but so are those of gorillas, song sparrows, and cockroaches. Our representations of the external world are all good enough in some sense. Of course, we are capable of formulating and testing much more complex logical models than other organisms, but it should give us the humility to recognize that the way our brains are built and what they were built for will probably imply fundamental limitations on our ability to comprehend reality. We can consider the possibility that artificial intelligences in the future may be able to comprehend and model what we cannot with our own evolved brains, but whether they can in any way explain their deeper understanding to us remains to be seen. And to get back to the topic of God or gods, even if the comprehensibility of the universe did argue for a single designer of both reality and mind, I don't see why that being would be the bumbling, irritable, mercurial God of the Bible.